Explosive new allegations about who was really running the country during Joe Biden's presidency are shaking up Washington.
Is the legacy media still covering up the cover-up?
That is why the fourth estate, the media, is so important, because its job is to look at the natural way that power operates and to hold power to account.
I'm Georgia Howe with Daily Wire Executive Editor John Bickley. It's Thursday, May 22nd, and this is Morning Wire.
Reporter czar Tom Homan gives us a sneak peek into his deportation plans and how ICE will handle hostile sanctuary cities.
So they're going to get exactly what they don't want. More agents in the community and more collateral risk.
And the Supreme Court hands a big win to an elected official in Maine who is speaking out about the state's transgender policies.
I can vote, which is the key part. That's the most important, right? Because my constituents have been without a vote on important legislation for 3 months now.
Thanks for waking up with Morning Wire. Stay tuned. We have the news you need to know.
Did you know that over 85% of grass-fed beef sold in U.S. grocery stores is imported, and most shoppers have no idea? That's why I buy all my meat from GoodRanchers.com. Good Ranchers products are 100% born, raised, and harvested right here in the USA by local family farms. Best of all, Good Ranchers is tariff-proof due to their 100% American supply chain. So while new tariffs make grocery store prices unpredictable, Good Ranchers stays the same. Lock in a secure supply of American meat at a steady price today. Subscribe now at GoodRanchers.com and get free meat for life and $40 off with code WIRE. That's Good Ranchers, American meat delivered.
As new details continue to emerge regarding the White House cover-up of President Biden's decline and those actually running the country, the legacy media is facing new pressure for their role in the scandal.
Joining us now is Daily Wire senior editor Cabot Phillips. So, Cabot, more evidence has been coming out about what was really going on behind the scenes during Biden's term. What have we learned?
Yeah, the drip of stories about Biden has turned into a waterfall this week. On Tuesday, the authors of the new bombshell book Original Sin, CNN's Jake Tapper and Axios' Alex Thompson, revealed the existence of what they called a Politburo of longtime consiglieres or advisors of Biden who were heavily influencing everything he did. Here they are talking about that group on the Megyn Kelly Show.
The people that we're naming would be Mike Donnellan, Steve Ricchetti. Mike Donnellan's his top political advisor. Steve Ricchetti is his top legislative advisor. Ron Klain, when he was chief of staff. Bruce Reed, his basically longtime policy advisor. Those are sort of the four. They were known as a Politburo, gray hairs, poobahs, and they were with him the most of anybody. Then there's this other sort of group that aren't the Politburo, but are just as powerful. And they were the ones that kept the schedule, affected personnel, and really built the bubble. And that would be Annie Tomasini, who's deputy chief of staff and previously Oval Office operations. And then Anthony Bernal, who was the top aide/enforcer for First Lady Jill Biden and had incredible influence to the point that even people in the Biden White House would refer to her as one of the most powerful first ladies in history.
And we've also learned that during the 2024 election, Biden's team spent millions of dollars organizing a staged town hall event with hand-picked attendees asking pre-written questions for the president to presumably knock out of the park. But according to reporting in that new book, the 90-minute event was a disaster, with Biden unable to string together any coherent answers. As one staffer put it, quote, "The man could not speak." It was so bad, in fact, that the campaign never aired any of that footage, flushing millions of dollars down the drain. They ended up blaming poor lighting instead of the president's mental capabilities.
People are now also asking questions about the media's involvement.
Yeah, there's no way to ignore the media's role in this story. For years, many of the most prominent outlets in the country and news anchors parroted White House talking points that President Biden was just fine, but you only saw that fine version behind closed doors. And it's not just that the legacy press told the American people Biden was fine, it's that they aggressively shut down anyone who asked questions about his abilities, labeling them conspiracy theorists, calling them ageist, or saying they were attacking a man who had a stutter. For example, listen to Jake Tapper from CNN, the same Jake Tapper who wrote this new book, talking to Lara Trump during the 2020 race.
I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no. I can't. This is so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
and try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was.
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
Now, for his part, Tapper has since admitted that conservatives were right all along to question Biden's mental fitness.
The conservative media was right, and conservative media was correct, and that there should be a lot of soul searching, not just among me, but among the legacy media to begin with.
So the message from Tapper and others in the legacy media is essentially, we're just as shocked as all of you are. We had no idea these things were happening. But look, plenty of people are not buying that excuse and believe they're only changing their tune now to save their credibility. One of those skeptics is author and journalist Batya Ungar-Sargon. Here's what she told us yesterday.
Now that Joe Biden has no power anymore and can't hurt them, now that he is a cancer-ridden, old, senile man, they are lining up to kick him, acting like somehow they deserve credit for speaking truth to power now that he no longer has any more power. And to me, that is the worst part about this.
You can hear Batya's full interview later this weekend on Morning Wire. She does not mince words. And one more thing worth noting here, while some journalists have admitted their mistake, many outlets are still not covering the latest revelations about the Biden cover-up. For example, the Media Research Center found that from May 13th to the 19th, ABC, CBS, and NBC spent just 7 minutes combined talking about this bombshell story.
That is so damning. Cabot, thanks for reporting.
Absolutely.
Trust isn't just earned, it's demanded. Whether you're a startup founder navigating your first audit or a seasoned security professional scaling your GRC program, proving your commitment to security has never been more critical or more complex. That's where Vanta comes in. Businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance for in-demand frameworks like SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, and more. For a limited time, our listeners get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/morningwire. Again, that's VANTA.com/morningwire for $1,000 off.
Border czar Tom Homan is calling for the passage of Trump's budget bill, which he says is crucial to carrying out the president's immigration agenda.
Daily Wire White House correspondent Mary Margaret Olohan caught up with Homan on Wednesday, and he made a case for why ICE needs more money to continue to secure the border, increase deportations, and clean up sanctuary cities. Here's that conversation.
We are here with border czar Tom Homan to discuss the border implications of this big, beautiful bill. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us, how is this reconciliation bill going to affect our border?
Well, look, we made a lot of progress on the border, but we want to keep it permanent. We need the money, not just for the border, but interior enforcement operations. Money for the border is going to help continue building the border wall. Every place the border barrier has been built, illegal immigrations went down, illegal drug flow went down. So we got to put more border wall up. And plus, we got technology in the existing border wall that Joe Biden stopped putting in. As far as the interior enforcement operations, ICE needs money. ICE is in the hole right now. They got about 50,000 people in beds. We're funded for 34,000. ICE is already in the hole. So if we want to continue this massive deportation operation, we need more money. People are asking, they don't think there's enough deportations, not enough ICE arrests. I agree with them. I'm pushing for more arrests. We need money to do it.
So let's say we do get the money for these deportations. What comes next in your strategy?
Vastly increase the number of teams on the street. More teams will hit the streets. More arrests can be made. We have bed for them. And more flights, more frequent flights to remove them quickly. Rather than sitting in an ICE facility for a month, we'll have flights ready to go. It'll be very expedient, very efficient. So you'll see us hit the ground running day one.
How have your operations been going in some of these blue cities like Boston? I know you've been spending a lot of time up there.
They're going good, but it could be better. Sanctuary cities do, make us less efficient. Because rather than one agent arresting one bad guy in a jail, where it's safe for the community, safe for the agent, safe for the alien, we got to send a whole team in the community to find them. If you're going to keep releasing public safety threats in the community, we're going to give you exactly what you don't want. We're going to flood the zone. We're going to send more agents in the communities, many more agents. We're going to send many more agents on worksite enforcement operations. If we can't get in the jail the safe and efficient way, we'll get them in the community, or we'll get them at work sites. So I want to hear anything from Sanctuary City. I don't want to hear a word about us arresting non-criminals. You put us in that position, that's what's going to happen.
Okay, so what's your message to Republican holdouts in the House of Representatives or Democrats who are not supporting the bill and not coming through for these initiatives?
There's no downside on a secure border. There's no downside unless trafficking of women and children. There's no downside unless fentanyl. There's no downside unless people on terrorist watch lists coming across. There's no downside in taking billions of dollars away from the cartels. There's no downside in removing public safety threats and national security threats from this country. We should all be on the same page. So step up, get this done, give us the money we need so we can keep President Trump's promise to American people alive.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tom. We really appreciate your time.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The U.S. Supreme Court has sided with a Maine Republican after she was punished by Democrats for drawing attention to controversial transgender policies in the state.
Here with more is Daily Wire reporter Amanda Prestigiacomo. Hey, Amanda. So Maine State Representative Laurel Libby was censured back in February. We covered that here. Remind our listeners about that censure and tell us about this win at the Supreme Court.
Right. So Libby was censured by Democrats over a post she published on Facebook. That post highlighted a male athlete winning a state championship in girls high school pole vaulting. In Maine, males who identify as transgender, they're allowed to compete in girls' sports, which, according to all polls, is not supported by the American people, even in a liberal state like Maine.
Right.
I was able to speak to Representative Libby yesterday. Here she is talking about the censure from state Democrats and the really interesting stipulation applied to her censorship.
The Democrat majority in the Maine House voted to censure me and at the same time to strip my constituents of their voice and their vote. And following that, the censure vote is when Speaker Ryan Fecteau declared that until I apologized, I would not be allowed to speak or vote on the floor.
She told me that she knew immediately after the censure that she had to take legal action to challenge that punishment. She lost at the District of Appeals court levels before she eventually appealed in April to the Supreme Court.
All right, so she gets to the Supreme Court. What did the High Court say?
Yeah, the court sided with Libby. They said that she can vote while this legal battle plays out. There were only two dissents as well. Those came from liberal justices Ketanji Brown Jackson and Sonia Sotomayor. And notably, Jackson, who was the only one to explain her dissent, she said that basically Libby is likely to win her case outright. Here's Libby on that outcome.
In Jackson's dissent, at least, it really came down to the process and the procedure and time frame and not the merits. And so I'm optimistic that at the end of the day, when we do have our full day in court, that we will prevail on the merits of this case. And I think that we're seeing an indication of that based on the emergency application being granted. And particularly, frankly, I'm encouraged by the reason that Justice Jackson dissented. You know, I was hopeful, but perhaps not optimistic before, and I would say I'm outright optimistic now.
Libby also emphasized to me that this case is unprecedented. She said that's likely why the Supreme Court took it up in the first place.
I think when folks who are not involved in politics think of the role of their representative, they think of the fact that they're voting on legislation, right? Voting on the bills that come before a legislature and determining if those will become law or not. And to have a duly elected representative stripped of that right that is, you know, the way in which they speak for their constituents is shocking and an attack on democracy.
Now, Maine has really been ground zero for this fight over transgender policies. What is the latest there with the state?
Yeah, we still have the Trump administration battling the state's Democrat governor, Janet Mills, over her decision to defy federal law and Trump's executive orders that bar males and girls' spaces and girls' sports. The feds have already frozen federal funding for the state, and last month, Attorney General Pam Bondi, she announced a civil lawsuit against Maine's Department of Education. There have also been questions raised about this network of transgender groups that surround Mills and her family. The governor's sister, Dora Ann Mills, she's the chief health improvement officer at Maine Health. That healthcare system was a top donor to Mills's 2022 gubernatorial run, and they also notably offer irreversible procedures for gender-confused minors, and that includes puberty blockers and what they call gender-affirming hormone therapy and menstrual suppression. Critics trying to make sense of Mills supporting these really unpopular trans policies, they've noted those connections.
Yeah, you can see why they might highlight those connections. Amanda, thanks so much for reporting.
You're welcome.
Thanks for waking up with us. We'll be back tomorrow with more news you need to know.
Hey guys, producer Brandon here. Balanced of Nature fruits and veggies provide a convenient way to get your daily whole fruits and vegetables. Using a special freeze-drying process, they transform fresh produce into easy-to-take capsules that you can bring anywhere. While not replacing a healthy diet, Balanced of Nature works alongside your other healthy habits to support your wellness journey. I take these capsules whenever I'm traveling to ensure I get my daily fruits and veggies. Head to balanceofnature.com and use promo code WIRE for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer, plus get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code WIRE.